Welcome to Maker's Perspective. When I went up to film this series, I was asked from a friend to make 2 bourbon cups for an anniversary, so I said I would, and I decided to do these X-ray cups. Basically, 2 wraps on a cup, the first wrap put slightly off center, flip at 180, and then the next wrap put again on slightly off center. Then make a cylinder, a lip wrap, and a spot for the thumb. This whole process from start to finish was filmed with J.W. May at Acme Studio in Louisville, Kentucky. JW just brought over a piece of Apollo Duro, stiff white. He picked it up on an iron and then gets it hot and just drops it right on another kind of preheated iron with no clear glass. And then I just pull it up on the rod about at least 1/2 to 3/4 of an inch. Over the years, one of the ways that I've found in shaping color, when I drop an overlay, or if I'm pulling cane with Duro or whatever color, making wraps, instead of marvering, sometimes I'll pinch out the piece.
Never seen that before.
So right there, granted I was on the marver, but basically I was just worrying about the moil, just trying to make sure the moil, getting the stability of that piece of Duro, that 3/4 to 1/2 inch on the punty rod. So at the bench, I grab my tweezers, pull it up just a little bit, and then start squeezing it out and pulling that clear and making it kind of more or less the shape that I want to go with.
Oh shit. You want to heat this for a sec?
Pardon me while I turn on the other video cameras.
Gotcha.
So now I'm going back to the marver, kind of making like a little pinky sausage shape. So even though I kind of tweezed it out into the shape I need, I'm still going to go to the marver. That's the best place to smooth it out. So because JW picked it up with a piece of clear like you would an overlay and drops it, but I find it easiest to kind of cut into the clear, I still had some clear on the end. So there I was just chewing it off. So now it's all 100% Duro. Then I'm just finishing up the shaping with the jacks. If I was pulling cane, I'd use a bigger chunk. I'd put it on a bigger rod, but the shape would still be more or less the same. One of the reasons I make a longer shape is when I gather, I don't want to have a big mass of clear around it. So that longer shape will allow me to gather or dip much more shallower and get less glass. I'm wiping the marver because I'm basically going to gather more or less completely around it, but then I'm going to go and I'm going to finish off the gather or
Stay open.
coating it at the marver. You can see that I'm not nearly as steep as normal, and then I rush over the marver, and I'm kind of almost like, sure, I'm turning and going, but I'm also turning in space, making sure that clear completely coats, and then pulling the clear off the end of the piece. I take my diamond shears and I cut the excess glass off the tip. But while I'm doing that, I also pull a tip, so kind of one stop for two things right there. Then when I hand that to JW, he can just hit that front quarter section and use the wrap. Essentially, I'll get quite a few cups out of that. So just truing it up, kind of pointing it up on the marver. And even though I need just 2 cups, I'll end up making probably about 6.
All right, if you just heat up that front tip part.
So now I got my blowpipe, start the cup. I'm going to get a small double dip here. Basically get a quick gather, let it air cool. Pipe was a little hot. You can see there's material off the end of the stick. And then I go in, completely cover the moil or my first gather, and come out, and I have a nice mass of glass. Again, I'll cool the pipe so it's easy to turn. But also waiting here, essentially it helps the skin freeze up so that when you block it, you don't get any smudge or whatnot. Just tidying up the moil, unnecessary, but one of the things I do. It's a nice moil. Hopefully you can have it nice all the way through. Just like that move, just straightening out the moil with my jacks, just being particular about it.
So get a good contact on it and pull.
Essentially, if everything's straight and tidy at the beginning, hopefully it'll be more or less that way at the end. So out from the glory hole, back to the bench, let it hang, kind of see how the glass is moving. And just give it a quick block, let it squat, and pop a bubble. Right now it's kind of a little sphere, and I'll heat that up and shape it into a tube. You can see I'm kind of hanging it down in the glory hole, so we're stretching out while I'm heating. Come out, give it a little bit of a swing, grab my newspaper, wet it, and start stretching it out a little bit. So you can see there's a little bit of thickness in the bottom and also a nice bit of thickness on the sides.
Yeah, you guys can. I'll need a couple of seconds, J-Dub.
more or less the same shape I would use if I was going into an optic mold. Now I'm on the rollers. I take a piece of chalk. I'm just finding the distance. So the distance between the roller and the yoke, making sure that I have at least enough difference for the piece to travel. I mark it.
Yep.
JW tabs it on the mark. It's off center slightly.
Pull back just a little bit.
And then I'm just turning, putting a nice bit of groundward pressure.
Just stay.
And I can tell JW to pull back or stay put or whatnot. So again, that was the first wrap, a little off center. That mark will help me know where I stop, so then I can stop on that mark, flip it, let it sag, and then wrap the other side. So a quick glory hole heap and just kind of smoothing out the wrap. Duro's stiffer than normal clear glass, even stiffer than regular, say, enamel white. So it's always good if you're going to put on another wrap so you don't trap any funkiness. Kind of just melt it in and smooth it out a bit. It'll track better if it's closer to the glass. JW is just marvering the tip, which he'll heat up and bring over for the second part of the wrap.
Okay, I'm gonna be over here.
Back to the rollers. You know, it's quite warm, so I'm just kind of looking at my chalk mark, stop on it, let it sag.
No, I'm still a little hot.
Just to get it that little bit off center in the opposite direction. Once it's not moving too much, that's when it's time to put the next wrap on. So it's not too hot, it's good temp. JW comes over, tags it on, and I just roll.
Pull back. There you go.
You want to be steady so you don't go flying off the rollers.
Once you see it tracks, then kind of you can jump a little bit. That way we save.
There I was just pointing out, like when I did a lot of wraps for Daleco, Chihuly, etc., we would tag on the moil, and then I would just jump it right into the place that I needed it. But you know, doing 25 to 50 pieces a day and working with the same person doing the wrap, and I had also brought the wrap a lot. It's one of those things like, you know how to conserve more color so you don't have to pick up a bunch of color and waste time. And basically, Duro's expensive, so I want to conserve it. I want to start it on the moil, and I'll need a little bit on the moil, but I don't need a big wad if you get my drift. So at this point, with the two wraps on, I'm just heating the piece and basically just going over to the marver just to smooth it all out. Now remember, the bubble, it's got a pretty good thickness. So essentially, if I just shape it right, I should be able to make whatever shape I intend. Again, this is going to be a squat cylinder, kind of a rocks glass, bourbon glass area. So I heat it up and marver the tip a little bit, coming on at a steep angle, and then giving it a blow just to see how the bubble is, how it blows out. Want the bottom to be a little thicker than the sides. One more over the marver, come nice and steep, get on that tip, marver the kind of down to the shoulder. It's kind of a funky diamond shape right now. Now the heat to get to the jack line. You can also see that basically it's taken me 15 minutes from preparing the color to putting the wrap on just to get to where we can finally drop out the shape. So I go with the butt ends of the jacks while JW blows.
Stop.
And basically I kind of have a sphere. And about half to 3/4 of an inch in, I start cutting the jack line. And then angle out and start pulling on that cold shoulder. Just measuring with the calipers where I want to break it off with the jacks, and then pulling it out, accentuating it just a little bit more with that one move where I open up my hands and pull. Go under it, make sure it's still on center, and check the calipers again. So you can see where I'm heating, flash the piece. I'm not really too worried about the jack line. That's done. Basically, the bottom 3/4 is what I'm going to focus on.
Cap.
So jacks on the side, carry on that nice kind of squat cylinder shape, but also to start pushing the bubble down to the bottom. Need the bottom to catch up with the width of the shoulders.
Blow.
Jacks on the side, have JW blow a little bit,
Cap.
pushing in the bottom with the butt ends of the jacks, and then testing that to see how much more needs to go. Just a little bit more. There I take my jack blades and push in the bottom, jacks on the sides, a light puff,
Good stuff.
measure the shoulder, measure the bottom.
Blow hard. Stop.
That looks pretty good. Good enough to put the blow hose on and start the bottom. So flash the piece deep, then come on that very bottom edge. Just want to make a nice squared off edge. Back at the bench, jacks on the side, little air pressure, and JW on the bottom. But he's not bumping up next to my jacks, just about halfway across the bottom, a little north of halfway. I want it a little crisper, but just to make sure I'm still within the ballpark, always take a caliper measurement. Good flash. A little bit extra on the bottom. Jacks on the side. You can even start to see that clear edge taking place on the bottom. Starting to look really nice there.
Better, yeah.
So once he's done, measure it. Looks good. Then I grab my paddle just to check the bottom and then put in the kick. One last look with the calipers. Looks good. Ready to flash and get ready for the punty. Make my little circle mark on the bottom for the punty. And there's JW making the punty. Making sure he has a nice shoulder up there. Support the piece, but a little bit of roundness, which I'll attach to. I'll grab it with my tweezers, put it right where I marked it. One tweezer blade on top, one on the bottom, kind of at a slant, and turning, making sure it's nice on center. Grab my water tweezers, drop, and bonk. So while JW is flashing, I take my tweezers and I warm them up a little bit with oil from the pipe. One blade inside, one blade outside. Find that high side while rolling away, lift up and push down while I bring it back to me. So it looks pretty good. Now this lip will be trimmed and also a bit of clear will be added, like a clear lip wrap. Now because the opening is wide, I'm making a small cylinder, I'll use my shears. I'm not going to use the jack and crack method. So mainly concentrating on the top third, top quarter of the piece. Nice and hot just in that area. Grab my tweezers, go all the way around, and then really start pulling it out. Grab my calipers, make a dent. Now when I go in and I trim, I'm going to cut a little north of that dent because as glass heats up, it shrinks. So use that little dent as my reference point to trim just a little north of that too. And essentially that'll melt out as I heat this thing up. So deep flash, and now just a little bit on the lip to make sure it's nice and smooth. Take the butt ends of the jacks and just go across the face of the lip, then open it up just a bit. JW is getting the gather that I'll use for the wrap. Comes over, he holds it up, sinks it back up on the pipe, that way it feeds, and then drops out. I just touch, go all the way around once, and then keep wrapping on itself almost 3 times, cut through itself, and I'm done. 3 rotations into the glory hole. So this is my time when I can flash it and then come back to the bench to see if anything needs to be done to the wrap, like if there was too much or off center a little bit. So at the bench, take my jacks on the inside, outside. I don't need a paddle. I essentially can squeeze out the weird side. And when I see that, then I'll take my diamond shears, or sorry, my straight shears, and just go completely around and trim it off. So I still have a good amount of clear up there, but I was able to take off that funky spot. So sure, ideally it would have been perfect, but it's not going to look any different. So jacks on the sides, then on the inside, and JW comes on with the paddle, and you can see there's a nice little bit of clear up there. That'll kind of disappear the more you blow it out and open it up. Ready for the Sophie. Sticks a little farther off the bench. Have JW blow. You can see I kind of fill up that top area. And when I'm done having him blow, I just pull it back to me. Didn't necessarily blow up as much as I wanted there, but I'll Sophie again and correct that. So jacks on the side. Just open the lip a little bit. Now I try not to touch any of the shoulder there. I just open the lip a little bit and then I went on the sides. Basically, there's that kind of swooped in area that I want to get high. So that's the area that I want to inflate. So by not touching it and touching everything else, it's the primary area that should expand after this next Sophie.
Okay, well, Puff.
So jacks on the side so it doesn't expand anymore. Grab the Sophie with my jacks. And you can see it inflated quite nicely there. Pulled it back to stop him from blowing anymore. And then to the glory hole. Looking at it, it's like 7/8 of the piece is completed. I just need to flip that 1/8 of the lip or a little bit more open. So back at the bench, I'll take my jacks and put them on the outside just to help me from over opening it. You can see he's also kind of giving me a sandwich just to stabilize, make sure the bottom and the top are very parallel to one another. So I just take my jacks and just finish it off, open it up, go to the bottom, make sure that it's all one thing as far as playing, and then go on the outside. And he's also at the same time giving me a sandwich. That was a good shot of kind of seeing all 3 parts, the jacks and both paddles working. And a quick caliper measurement before this flash. So if it's too long, you can always heat it up and then squat it with the paddles, meaning like sandwich and then squeeze it down. This one looked like it measured about right. So now I'm just flashing it just so I can get a little movement in the punny so I can stay out long enough to torch the thumb indent. So let it sag a little bit. And then just using the oxypropane, not staying in one spot, just letting gravity do the dirty job of letting it sag. You have a risk of burning the glass if you just stay in one spot too long. So it just falls. Then I have JW come on with a Sophie and blow on it so that when I flash, it doesn't fall back out. You can see how far off center it's gotten. It's okay. It's still warm back there. I just give it a little bit of heat and hand it to JW for an old in and out flash. He gives it a wiggle, and by the time it comes back to me, it's basically on center again. So there you can see the cup, the wrap, and the dimple, and also the lip wrap. So it looks fairly good. You can see it's pretty hot there. There's the dimple, spin around. Grab my jacks because you can never touch glass enough. Sarcasm. Now last flash. Drop water out the connection. Bonk it off on the paddle. And torch out any of the sharp spots from the punting. So that's the wrap cup with a clear lip wrap and a dimple. Now there's the cup and the selection of the cups I've made, but it's also a technique, that off-center wrap thing, that you can make larger vessels with. So here's a combination of two different wraps placed off-center on the vessel, similar to the xwrap cups that I made for this series. Thanks for watching Maker's Perspective. Cheers.